for the welcome.
Before I start or the dissertation, the lecture from Andrea, it is very interesting to know each other and to tell us why we started this series as make things make sense and make shifts. It is very related to all what you said. We are a team of makers or coders and people that wants to create something meaningful. We are, you know, it could be like 5 years or more connected to the Fab Labs, but we started a trend. We just call it the Green Fab Lab Network, because we are approaching a more sustainable way, considering the Fab Lab scenario and the world scenario. We think that we couldn't continue to produce things that has a very short lifespan, life cycle, and then becomes waste. And it is a problem in most of the Fab Labs because they are involved in not only this kind of production, but also a very short span of time with the machines. So because most of the Fab Labs are from the university, so the students has a very teeny amount of time experiencing with the machines. And we need to shift from that. We need to make sense. We need to understand that technology, it's needed to transfer to people to improve their lives in a way that is sustainable. And then what we are trying to create is an environment where people could be more engaged with the tools in a different way. I mean, to use that tools for a symbiotic life. You know, we are destroying the planet. We need to change that, and we need to make sense by enabling regeneration, by creating an environment where we could live in a totally different approach and lifestyle, by creating self-sufficient, resilient, self-sufficient lifestyle. It means to produce our own energy, our own food, our own clothes, all that stuff, because we have the tools of the Fab Lab and more, and we could create that not only for our families, but for local development around us. So it is needed a way to create an environment where this approach could remain, not only for a fraction of time, like 5 years, but for a lifetime. And it means that we need to create green communities that works in a cooperative fashion, and they just work for, you know, getting all the tools, and then share the tools and creating a community that is empowered and that has everything that needs for themselves. And then one of the problems, and I will finish with that, that we see worldwide is that people couldn't afford to, you know, to pay or to buy large amounts of land for making a green Fab Lab. But they could afford that if they unite in a cooperative, or they could get from local authorities by asking them for comodato, for example. Comodato is a legal feature or legal way to do that, by asking the local authorities permission to use by 15 years or something more or less, some land or some facilities that are available in the local area, and then recreate that place in a way that it could be a place for that gives local services for all the people around. So that is a way that we found, and we are trying to explore different alternatives to ownership, so people could afford this and not just go to the Fab Lab for some hours, but also to go to the Fab Lab because they are living in the Fab Lab. They are living in the community around, right? So that is what we call the Green Fab Lab. And we could have the conventional Fab Lab, and we could have an integrated farm for producing food and stuff. And we could have also a biolab because we're going to need a lot of processing of foods for later use, etc., etc. So it is an integrated approach that wants to be in the framework of the circular economy, for instance, or beyond an open source symbiotic economy, trying to reduce the impact of our footprint, trying to reduce, to achieve, zero emissions, zero waste, etc., etc. But mostly, the main goal is to be as inclusive as is possible. So it is not that Fab Labs is quite exclusive, because it is originated on very expensive universities. And then when it is on the public sector, that universities allows the students for some hours of the machine. But this is not a real transfer of technology. It is just a little time for them. And what we want is to create an environment where this technology transfer could be something complete and a real transfer of technology for empowering people. Okay, so I try to create a context for Andrea. All our approaches are in that way, trying to be as biophilic as possible, talking about, for example, architecture or construction, or talking about a production. We want to be as sustainable as possible too. Okay, that is all for me. It is an introduction and in context for Andrea. And I think that it is aligned with your expectation, Antonio. We will be ready to help you in order that you get that place, that amazing place that you show us, and to provide what is needed, in the production of the project that you want to create over there. So count with us in that venture.
Marco, I thank you very much. If there is time left after Andrea's presentation, I would be very interested in talking a few more minutes about that. And if you had the interest, the two of you, I would be even more interested in talking about what my current reality is looking like and what are my potential plans. I have a very ambitious list of dreams, which is great. Can be very frustrating if they only are dreams, but can be heaven on earth if at least some of them become true. So I would be very much interested in sharing with you my madness, not from a vanity point of view or from a showing off point of view, but from a truly human point of view that believes that alone I will not be able to almost do anything, but with the right combination of people, that may happen. I'm a little bit of a crazy cookie, like most of us, if not all of us. but sometimes most of us allow not the cookie out of the package. And I'm trying to allow my craziness out of the package. And so it would be interesting if we could do that. We have more people joining us, so that may not be possible, but then we will see. Marco, I just would like to ask you one thing. I didn't understand, where are you based or what are you doing? And so in what country are you?
I'm currently living in Cochabamba, Bolivia.
Oh, okay.
And Andrea is currently living in Dubai.
In Dubai, that I heard from her. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to start with the lecture of Andrea.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
I will explain a little bit about the content. Or we're going directly to the content, Andrea, because we have this introduction that it was not on the program. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking about what Antonio said. I think we could have a time in the end to talk to him. I will try to be as quick as I can as well, because I try to do a lecture is just for you to understand, Antonio. My work is not related to Fab Labs or anything like that. I had a design studio in Brazil that I started to do some digital pieces, digital fabrication pieces. And nowadays I'm doing a PhD in Shanghai about technology and architecture. So I started to think about more how to take some ideas and maybe let some crazy ideas get in my way, thinking like out of the box, because when you start the studio, maybe it's, I don't know what happened to you exactly, but with me, I started, you have to be a commercial, and then you don't have time to explore, to think really about what you want or what matters or what could you do differently. So I'm started to think about that. And I try to put that in the lecture. Let me share here. And to explain a little bit where I came from and where I'm going. As is the two of us, if you want to stop and do some comments and to, I don't know, share something as well, it would be a pleasure, okay? I don't want to be that monotonous or something like that. So feel free to interrupt and to say whatever you want. This first part, the commercial part, I would really go quickly because I think it's not really related to you. So I'm just trying to here to frame where I came from, okay? And then I will go to experimental parts.
But
so
Andrea,
I had
me from my side, please do what you think that you would like to be doing. It. If it's commercial, it's interesting because it's about the value that you offer. So
okay.
From my side, don't rush anything. I'm not speaking on Marco's behalf, but I'm just speaking on my behalf. It's okay.
Okay. So I will try to go a little bit fast, but not so much. Okay, so I'm going to show this commercial and these experimental projects that I said. About the studio, it was an architecture, interior, and product design studio. I still have it, but now with the PhD, it's a little bit focusing some other things. But mainly, my work is focused on the study of nature, including biomimicry, biophilia, and new technologies, including neuroscience. So I really believe that the projects, they tell histories, they mirror moments, recreate memories, question values, help people defend causes, and propose novelties in general. And I try to create a studio that proposes a greater connection between man and nature concerning memory. So a kind of affective memory, and bringing the possibility of some natural shapes into the houses of people. So natural pattern, what I try to do is I studied some natural patterns, especially from the Brazilian vegetation, and tried to do some design pieces related to that. So people had in their houses pieces that related to the vegetation that we have in Brazil. And I saw this guy that I was super interested, that his name is, I don't know how to speak properly, but Jadav Payeng. And he starts to create a forest because I think that he lived in India. And then in his city, the forest was destroyed. So he planted each day one tree. And by the end, he had a huge forest. By the end of, not the end, but in some years, he had a huge forest. So I was really inspired to that, thinking how little by little we can do something great, you know. Maybe
Andrea,
not.
let me tell you this. Do you know a story of a guy that did a similar thing in a mountain in France?
No.
Well, can I interrupt and contribute with that?
It's yeah, sure, perfect.
I don't know. I'm getting the shivers, which is a very good sign in my own self-talk. This is a guy, and I know about him from my godmother, that lived on his own, and he was collecting seeds, like, I don't know how to say this in English, but it's like bolotas. It's the small, small pine,
yeah,
or something like that. I don't know if they were from pines. All I know is that he would spend, he was alone, so he lived his life alone. He would spend part of the time separating what seemed to be the most likely to flourish seeds, and then he would plant them. And after the span of his life, he had repopulated a significant amount of a landscape like mountain, where, because he started with the seeds and the trees, then came the birds, then came the worms, or then came the worms, then came the birds, and he reforested that. And just to finish, I have already dreamt in one of the many dreams to engage in something that would be kind of a regiment, like an army of people, to do projects like this, something like, let's go for 1 month to the place Ypsilon and just do that for a month. 100 people, 200 people, 1,000 people, 20 people, whatever. So making waves of this reforestation in places would be very, very interesting. And I did not know any other story about that type of action by one individual until you showed this now. So thank you for this. And if I can, I will look for the other one and share it with you.
Super, it will be super interesting. I think we really need models like that. And there is this, I think, African proverb, I don't know, that you do something like that. I'm horrible in quotations, but doing small things in places that are not, small places with few people, you achieve something, and I really believe in that. So with the studio, I tried to create a fund of every piece sold, and to use that someday to do a project, little by little and going like that. It was the way that I found in the studio to do something that, okay, you take inspiration from nature and you show people the importance, or how it's a kind of biophilia, so how they relate with a more natural product, but at the same time reverting that back to nature again. So that was the time, the way I found that I thought it could be interesting in Brazil. So I'm going to show quickly some projects. So this is a partition screen, and then I found that these plants were really interesting. They are called Costela de Adão in Portuguese, and they have these holes. So the sunlight, this type of vegetation, they grow in a very dense forest. So the light has to pass through the leaves to get to the lower ones. So that's why they are like that with holes. So thinking about that, how can I pass this idea of having layers so the light can pass through to a design project, right? And analyzing also some of these triangles that you have in the pattern of some rainforest leaves, I decided to do a screen partition that could move. And in the movement, it would reveal something that was in the background in a different way. So you can have the passage of light and you can see what is on the back in a different way, joining these two ideas of the Costela Jadão and some other leaves of the rainforest. So I start to think how this screen partition could be assembled and to be transported, and what are the elements that the triangulations that you could have in the screen partition. It was a parametric formula that I did in Grasshopper, and I liked this one, the big one, but we had a problem here because structurally, when you have screen partitions like that, you need a steel cable here, one in the middle and one in here in the end for make that work, right? But in our case, we have to separate the steel cables. So we did a lot of separate steel cables that could overlay a part of each other, then to have a structure that this could move and could have this kind of triangulation patterns. So we created the screen partition and it would roll up. And then we discovered that in Japan, they have a really interesting techniques, not only in Japan, but in a lot of places actually. But this kind of traditional architecture and design in vernacular architecture, where they burn the wood, they don't pass varnish, but they burn the wood so the bacteria don't get to the piece of wood. So we use that technique and we burned the screen partition. So you have to burn a little piece and pass something not to really burn, but just superficial. And we were burning and passing a cloth, something like that. And we had, in the end, the burnt screen partition working properly. So it's just the burnt screen partition to protect it. And we started to do a lot of experiments with the CNC and the patterns of the leaves and etc. For instance, this other project where you have this type of fan palm leaves that we call in the rainforest, and how we can translate this concentric movement to a piece. So this is a table that is formed by two materials. So one material, I'm sorry, but this one material has two properties. It's white on the outside and black on the inside. So you can have, when the CNC passes, it carves and it gives the color already, because what the CNC carves starts to be black. And we did a lot of experiment with this multi-material, multi-laminated material. So this is a panel that is multi-laminate. So it has a white layer, black layer, white, black, white, black. And when the CNC carves, you don't know which layer is going to achieve. So you don't know more or less the drawing that you're going to have, because it depends on the line, the length of the line, the curve, and how the CNC goes down and up. So we start to explore that. And another exploration that we did was looking to some barks of the trees of Cerrado. We have vegetation in Brazil that's called Cerrado, that the tree trunks are like that. You have the bark doing this kind of movement, because this type of vegetation, usually they are burnt from period to period. So in this burning process, the tree does this movement. And looking also to not only Cerrado, but to Amazon, for instance, where you have this bark of the trees and you have the reflection of the water, it's really interesting because first, when you imitate the texture, you relate that to biophilia, But then also when you have this type of symmetries in nature, in neuroscience, you understand this shape better because you understand it quickly because it's the same formula repeated. So because of that, we started to do a series of vases.
In neuroscience, you said?
Yeah, neuroscience. So your brain understands formulas easier if they are symmetric, if they are kind of recursive. So if you have, for instance, a tree with the same formula as a fractal, right, repeated over and over, your brain understands faster because it realized that it's the same formula applied to a lot of scales, and it has a sequence that you can understand. So it's not like a monotonous type of design because you see that has a complexity, but at the same time, it's not a complexity without an order that you can't understand. So it's really intelligent because it's an order, a complexity, what they call it, organized complexity. And you have some papers in that with, for instance, Nikos Salingaros, that's a mathematician that's really interesting. And he takes that in biophilia, that is started with Keller, and now it's you have the latest manuscript with Keller and Elizabeth Calabrese, and then Nikos Salingaros and other neuroscientists. They are working on that and taking that forward. So it's really interesting what's happening now, related not only to biophilia, but how this connection with nature is being proved. The well-being that you get from that is being proved by neuroscience.
Andrea, I'm going to send you a text message on WhatsApp, and later, when you have the time, please just send me back those authors and the studies that you are making. But don't do it now, don't interrupt. I'm just going to send you a text message now, okay?
Okay, perfect, I will. It's really very interesting because they proved, I will talk about that when we are in installation, but why these multisensory installations or multisensory designs are so important. But here we are talking about geometry, so we started to do a lot of tests with that, following the size of the bar. I won't enter in any specific case of geometries or something like that, but we started combining different type of plastics coming from algae, cork, combining recyclable recycling, doing a lot of types of patterns with that as well. And it's interesting because in nature as well, for instance, in biomimicry, when we study the pattern of the zebras, they say that the zebra is striped like black and white, because of a lot of factors. So one theory says that is because when a lion looks to a zebra, it doesn't know where, a lot of zebras actually, it doesn't know where a zebra starts and ends to attack. Another one is that mosquitoes, for instance, you have a paper on that. If mosquito lands on a cow, it lands more on cows than zebra because of the pattern, because this pattern is very dazzling. So they don't know where to stand. So actually, the mosquitoes bite more cows that don't have the pattern than zebras. So it's really interesting when you start doing this connection in design and architecture and studying forms and patterns that relate to nature, because you have some interesting results. And now these vases, they are going to be shown in the Museum of Amazon, in a biomimicry exhibition there, permanent biomimicry exhibition. And we have a set of labs that were made by this company in Sao Paulo that are being commercialized now. So this is the last commercial project, was a lab also that we did inspired on the shells. So it's really interesting, the cavities that the shells have and how to place a light according to that. So We did a formalin grasshopper with a lot of cavities, so you have the possibility to put the lamp in different ways. So this was the first one we printed in shapeways. It was a little one, so you can place the lamp here, in this cavity, in this other one. So it was really interesting to see this kind of complex structure and how to design some patterns that could be used according to where the light is located and this complex kind of structure. So this is the last project.
Andrea, I did not see that this was the commercial presentation. It is a beautiful presentation, beautiful presentation. And I know that you are not selling anything now, but at some point in time, I would like to know what is the cost of some of these things, because they are really wonderful. And I would really like to know where you sell them. Are they very hard to pay pieces of art that they are one of a kind, etc.? Or is this affordable to a normal individual? And affordable is always a relative notion, I know that. But I would like to know more about what you call the commercial part, because everything that I saw is amazing. And on top of this, I want to tell you one more thing. The design of your site, of your presentation, and this idea of working with one line, etc. I only know one company that works like this, which is from a friend of mine, and I will let you know because his logo is very similar to the way that you have your signature. And once that you are in the presentation of the commercial side, let me tell you this: I need to create a site for myself and for the company that I have created 10 years ago or more, that is sitting like a car in the garage waiting to be started, which I am starting now. And I love the cleanness of your design, but I love the colorfulness of some other designs. And what I want to, after this talk and after this week, I would very much like to talk to you to see if we could find a way to combine your cleanness on how you design, the morphology, the biophilia touch that you give to everything, and the colors and the themes that I have from another person that has worked with me and that helped us creating loads of the presentations from my company that I am leaving now. I'm leaving in operational terms. I'm not selling the company.
Excuse me.
And it would
Antonio?
be, yes.
We have a short amount of time for this presentation, and then they're going to cut us when we achieve the 1 hour.
Oh, they're going to cut
half.
the Zoom link. I did not know about this. I'm sorry. We will talk later about this. Sorry, Marco.
Okay,
sorry.
perfect.
No problem.
No, perfect. Yeah, let's talk about that. But thank you. I'm really, really excited to hear that. And so this is the first experimental project. It was a project that I did with Marcos Farr. And we are both doing the PhD in TONG. We presented in Cadria in 2020. So it was a project that was an installation called Multisensory Materiality. So expanding human experience and material potentials with advanced HoloLens technologies and emotion sensing wearables. So it was a project that questions, what is the current state of human? Yeah.
Before you restart the talk, I want to say something. I consider these events needs to be this way, what we are approaching now. I mean, we are getting meaningful connections for doing transformations related to companies, related to social enterprises, related to education, institutional education, etc., etc. It is not about a lecture where we just, in a passive way, we're going to hear and that's all. And the expert will tell us everything. but to get the most of the interaction, and that is the way that we are approaching now, which is very enriched for everybody here. And we are really enjoying your presentation and the way this event is going on. That is something that I especially want to tell Antonio, because it is not that I could his answer only because the amount of time, but I think that that is the best way to approach interaction in events like this. Continue, please.
Perfect. Yeah. So please, if you want to interrupt, feel free.
It's all good, Marco. It's all very good. No problem.
So what is the current state of human material perception relative to advanced architectural technology? What sensory experiences are possible and how they are designed and deployed? And what happens where advanced HoloLens technologies are used in conjunction with wearable emotion sensing technologies to connect people with deeper sensory experience relative to materiality and space? So we created this installation using, this is a add-on from Grasshopper, right, called Hologram, that you can see in your phone, the augmented reality of something. HoloLens, that is this set of lenses that is an augmented reality as well. So you have perception of the space where you are overlaid with the digital one, and up mode sensing, that is a bracelet that has a sensor that says from minute to minute, what are you feeling? So it has 11, I think, emotions, and it has an algorithm that can, by your heart rate, say that. But you have another technologies, we put that because we worked with that, but you have a lot of other technologies that do the same thing and that could have the same result. So how we can understand here, our main question was how to improve the understanding of a material regarding human experience. So this is an example of HoloLens. You can see here the reality, right? And the digital one overlaid here as well. And thinking about augmented reality, there is a philosopher that's called Andy Clark that we really like a lot, that says that actually we are kind of robots already. We are kind of humans that are blended with non-humans artifacts. So for instance, if I use my phone as a GPS or something like that, it's an extended mind of my mind because I'm using that to connect with the world. So cell phones, all the computers, all the gadgets that we have nowadays, they actually are an extended mind or extended body of mind. So it's almost an extended embodiment that I have with technology nowadays. So that's why we tried to do this experiment and help us to extend our perception. So how these kind of embodied technologies, they transform us and they can be used to transform our perception. We created this space. Actually, it was a wall that was a physical wall, and we used this technology to overlay a digital project. So this installation, we used tactile, olfactory, auditory interactions to enhance the perception of a material and how this could help us to relate to a determined space. So it combines the emotional perception of wearables with the traditional architecture and construction workflow. So we included what are the benefits for us to do that? It's a real-time simulation of scale, color, form changing. So it's a lot of, it's an enhancement of our perception. So here is the physical installation that we did. We laser cut this pattern in paper and we attached to a wall. And then this actually has 2 colors of papers and has a lot of scale. So this was important for us and also a lot of our orientation. So this is oriented in one way, this starting to kind of formate a vortex. So we used salt as the material crystallization to add this to the paper to have a different, for instance, if a person goes to installation today or tomorrow, she has or he has a different perception about how this installation transforms itself physically along the days. So we added salt to the installation. There are a lot of salt tutorials on the internet, how with a biomaterial or a material that's sustainable, you can add to paper and transform this installation. So we did that with the installation to provide also this experience of touch. So the salt growed with time and you can touch the petals and see how this crystallization changed along the time of the installation. And why salt? Because here in Dubai, it's one of the main elements that we have, and also because it's a very symbolic element. So it has a collective memory. It's a sign of ritual, landscape, purification, all of that. So you went to the installation. It started with paper, and a long time, the salt was crystallizing on this paper and forming these different kind of textures. We put a smell as well related to salt. So if a person went to the installation, what would be the smell of salt? And we realized that salt has no smell due to this low volatility. So how we can create an effective memory of the salt smell. And we saw that in a lot of papers and reports, this memory is created mainly because of the beach and the ocean. But actually, it's just an effective memory because the memory that you have on the beach and on the ocean is mainly because of the seaweed that you have there. But we extracted that and we used the sand that was related to the beach. Also the sound. So what happens is while the crystals started in the exhibition, we put this sound of the crystallization of the salt. So the interesting thing about this installation is that a person that is, for instance, disabled, I don't know, that doesn't see so well, she or he could touch the installation and have the perception of the material by the touch or by the sound. So it's really interesting. And not only people that are disabled, but also people that are in different, that has different ages. Because for instance, when you're becoming old, your sight maybe is becoming a little bit worse. So how to pick a material and see how people perceive this material, not only by vision, using vision, but also through touch, to smell, to sound, something like that. And we created a digital environment in Houdini, and we started to see how this texture could grow with time and how to pass this to augmented reality. So we did a lot of tests on these growing crystallizations and how this could be incorporated in the augmented reality. So the methodology of this project is not intended to provide solutions from the beginning, as in traditional architecture or design, but rather to analyze the use of design process and augmented technology to inform solutions during the process, and then try to assess the potential impact of a set of sensory experiments. So here is the installation starting with the crystallization, in the middle of the crystallization, and in the end. So actually, the human sensorium was used as a way to connect users with the reality and creating an integral kind of integrated experience of sound, touch, and everything. So the question was how to create a rooted exploration of space, merging the physical and the digital, the buildable with the not buildable yet, and the fabricated with the unfabricated. So using these technologies, we could change the pattern of the salt in scale, light, color, and a lot of combinations. And whomever visited the installation used this sensor that tracked how the person is feeling when looking to the experience. So you can put this data as you can use this data to do another project, because you understand how people is feeling when you have just the physical installation, or when you have the physical combined with the digital installation, and so on and so forth. So you can use that as a feedback to the project, human feedback. The second experimental project we presented in another conference on 2020 as well is called Synergistic Space Potential. So technology, humans, and responsive material in the design process. So our question was how to humanize humans through technology. So here we started to see, let me just put here, we started to see how to use technology, not that as I always try to think about technology as a means to do something, not as an end. So as a mean to create an effective memory, as a mean to create a sensory experience, or as a mean to humanize humans. So one of the installations that we looked to was actually is not an installation, it's a performatic event, is from Marina Abramovic, when she just sit in a table and look to another person. So here is her ex-husband, and try to understand another person and to see how this non-verbal communication would work between two people. So just by looking to a person without saying anything to he or she, how you can try to understand with body signals or human vision, how the other, what are you feeling in this moment, and how to enhance this feeling. And it's a beautiful performance, because she started crying in the middle of the event. And and she was really emotional about that. So our project started by that, and started by acknowledging that there is a professor of UCLA, UCLA, that says that communication about feelings and attitudes, words account just 7% of the total message that people receive. So 7% is nothing. So the aim of the project was to improve verbal and non-verbal communication between people through technology. So how to make use of the 93% that is missing here to bring people together. So we thought about to create a parametric project that could enhance this kind of mentality. And looking, especially in the workplace, because in the workplace, people communicate about feelings and emotions way less than in a regular situation. So we were thinking how to draw less things with a greater impact. So when we look to a desk, for instance, a work desk, we see that we have a lot of people put plants or objects or photographs to say something to try to personalize the table. And at the same time, through this personalization, to say to people what they are, right? So looking to that, we thought, is it possible to create a table that personalized a feeling or something like that of the person that is using the table? So we did an experiment in Houdini, how this table could change colors and shapes according to the feelings of the person. So for instance, here, if a person is in this side and another one is on this side, how this table could change shape and color according to what I'm feeling. So we did a lot of experiments, and in looking to nature again in biomimicry, we have different type of leaves. In the same tree, we have different type of leaves, and they are divided according to sun leaves or shade leaves, because they are, the shade leaf, usually they are larger because they have to receive more light, and the sun leaves are smaller. So we try to analyze the typologies and morphologies of leaves that you have in the tree, and see how these morphologies would work with heat. So how through heat these leaves could change form. So we designed a table that it was inspired on when you have, for instance, the winter or the autumn, where you have a lot of leaves in the floor when you go out. So it's really interesting to see this experience of the leaves on the ground and how to do a table using that. So here is the basic, how the table would perform. So you have one person here, another one here, and both of them would use the bracelet and would be near the table, and the table would transform shape and color according to the person is feeling. This we did a little experiment. So actually it's like that. There are the emotions that are called calm and aroused. So we separated on up mood the emotions that could be related to calm or aroused. And the thinking was about that. So if I know, for instance, that, I don't know, Marco, for instance, here is not feeling great in a day, it's a kind of, he is very preoccupied or is very tormented about something. Would I change the way I address or talk to him because I know something is wrong with him? Probably I would. So how to improve communication in work, knowing that a person is not really feeling good that day or something like that? Could I change the way I speak just to feel so the other person could feel better and we can have a better communication? So we divided that and we started to use a biomaterial combining metals and paper, really simple experiment, and how this metal and paper could react to heat and could transform the shape. So the leaves, they bend according to the temperature, and they change color as well because we use the thermochromic paint. So basically is that, so the leaves, they start cold and they are blue. So they are straight and blue if you're calm. And if you're aroused, they start to become red and they start to bend. So we did a lot of experiments. We, together with Alexandre Wilson from Bell's Arches. He programmed a kind of microprocessor that took from the sensor in the pulse, the up mode sensor, the emotion that you're feeling, and it could activate the table or not. So if it's calm, doesn't activate the microprocessor, and the leaves are blue and straight. If it's aroused, activate the table, and the leaves become red and bended. So it worked like that, more or less. You have a QR code. So you had the sensor on your pulse that goes to an app in your phone and goes to the microprocessor that activates or doesn't activate the table patterns. This is an image for the table. And that's it for this project. And the last one is called Biosensor Connections. It is actually a research that our group is doing. And in this research, actually, we did 3 workshops. One was digital futures, one was Synergistic, and the last one was CAD futures. So basically, we are thinking about how, because actually nature has guided our behavior for 12,000 years. But we lived in an environment that was open, right? We lived in the savannah, something like that. Now, 90% of our time, we live in closed environments. So it's a huge shift between having living in the savannah, that our ancestors lived in the savannah, and our body developed schemata, kind of innate schemata and biologically programmed abilities to deal with that, to the environments that we are living now. So thinking about that, how we could enhance this relation between nature and humans, and bring some elements of the nature to inside the house, and trying to analyze and to study with the advancements of neuroscience how this relationship could be enhanced and what are the main features that we can pass to geometry. Usually when we talk about well-being, comfort, and anything related to that, we are talking about textures, or we are talking about colors, but we don't really analyze how geometry makes us feel. And it's really important for us to try to perceive if a determined geometry is making us feel calmer or a little bit more anxious. So that is where our research started, to try to analyze and to get some data from this feedback, understanding how is our relationship to the built environment. So for instance, I am here in this room and I am relating to a different furniture with different shapes, different colors, different sounds. How this is affecting me? Am I aware of that? So a lot of times we work, for instance, with a construction noise or something that is there all the time and is starting to irritate you, and you don't realize that. And by the end of the day, you're exhausted and you say, wow, but why am I feeling like that? Completely exhausted. And then you're going to realize that without having awareness, your brain is decoding this construction noise all the day. I don't know. And it's making you to spend a lot of energy in that. So it's really important for us to be aware of where we are, what kind of environments we are constructing, and how we are passing that to the our houses, schools, cities, and so on and so forth. So we created this research group that is analyzing that nowadays. It's formed by, so here we are, this is our group. So here it's, let me go back, it's an interdisciplinary group. So here I deal mostly with the research in biophilia neuroscience. Ernesto Bueno is doing all the parametric algorithm drawings. Gustavo is dealing with all the data that is coming from the valences of images, if it's positive or negative. Ricardo he's an actor, but he works with neuroscience. Ricardo, that's an architect, but works with multisensory installations, deals with neuroskies. So we are using mind waves to see what are our how our brain reacts to this kind of geometries. And Jaime, that is working with augmented reality, and also in our case with the video, the 3D shapes. So basically, let me see here. We started to do this research. So the first part is about biophilia. So we studied what is well-being, what is emotional well-being, and how we can analyze some features of biophilia, and also not just biophilia, but the current studies that I mentioned before, Salingaros and neuroscience. So what are the factors that we can take from that? And we selected some of them, such as we are working with mid-range fractal dimension, the use of symmetries, growing formulas such as Fibonacci sequence, harmonic curves, focal point, complementary contrasts, such as the use of mixed lines with curve, and off-white neutral colors. We started these workshops applying colors, working with colors and geometries, but nowadays it was too many variables, so we are just focusing on understanding geometry. So all the projects are kind of off-white. And we picked a lot of works as reference. For instance, this one is M. Sussman that has a book on cognitive architecture that's really interesting. So she uses, for instance, eye tracking to see on the constructions what are the elements. I'm sorry, here it went out. What are the elements that are we look first or second, for instance, in a I don't know where it was. Let's see, but in a facade, for instance, what are the elements and how we perceive a facade? It's really, really interesting, her study. So we start to analyze that in the workshop and show that to the students. And after the students, they worked with Grasshopper and Rhino and a set of different add-ons and realized and drawed some projects related to that using these plugins. After we picked these projects that they did, and we did a video, and they had to watch this video to record themselves watching the video and pass to us. And we did an analysis with Face OSC and an AI using artificial intelligence to understand the balance of the project. So if the person that was watching thought it was a project that she liked, or she didn't like, or he liked, or he didn't like. And so the balances were divided into 3 categories. It was neutral, positive, and negative balance. So they analyzed that, and they did research as well in the end of the project. And also, besides that, we used mind wave sensor that in the case was NeuroSky to analyze the brain waves of the people that watched the video. So this part, as you can see, we understood all the principles of biophilia that we were working with that I just described. So the fractals, the focal point, etc., etc. And once that understood, they started to do the formulas, so the grasshopper formulas, and try to pass this kind of concepts to their projects. So we taught a lot of plugins of Grasshopper, and they worked with that, and they did a lot of projects to analyze how these feelings and how these formulas and could be passed to their geometries. After that, they recorded. So here they are doing the research with the fractals, etc., etc. Let me move that just for me to. So this is still the part that they are doing the. I will fast forward that. So just for you to understand. So here is the last one. So after that, they recorded themselves looking at the video with their project. So rotating to have a kind of 3D perception of the projects, not to be just an image that was 2D, but knowing that this project was a 3D project. So they did this, we did these videos, they watched these videos, and the Face OSC kept track of their analyze their microfacial expressions. So when they looked at the project, what is the size of the pupil, where they are looking, what if they are moving their mouth up and down. So what is the facial expression that they were doing? We tracked that and we analyzed if the emotion was positive, negative, or neutral. And also they did kind of research in the end saying what they thought about the project. So it was a self-perception kind of analysis. It's very common in psychoanalysis to do that, and psychology to do this kind of self-perception analysis. So it was these two types of research. And after that as well, Ricardo took the project and analyzed with the NeuroSky what are the type of the brain waves. And then we got the attention levels and meditation levels of the drawings. So this is the fourth part with the AI of Gustavo. So this is the Face OSC software where we analyze the microspatial the facial microexpression of the students. So all the students did it. And here we have the order that the project was shown, and here we have the order of preference. So the most preferred projects among the students was this one, second that one, third, fourth, and so on and so forth. So that was the preference order of the students. And after, I'm sorry, the video is moving on. After that, we evaluated with the EEG. So besides that, the last step was that one. So what are the brain waves, the attention levels and meditation levels of each project? So if you have a more focused attention, or meditation level is what they called non-focused attention. So when you go to nature, you have a lot of stimuli, and how this stimuli, okay, you pay attention, but not so much as doing a work. So it's really important to see your relaxation level using that. So this is the research that we have nowadays, that we are trying to do this analysis according to the geometries that we have. Usually we perceive that as a result, we perceive that continuous geometries, continuous shape, using curves that has a kind of mid-range density that is not so dense, but then it's not so monotonous. For instance, they have the highest level of monitored meditation levels and positive valence. So that is the analysis. Usually shapes that are not continuous, that are not curved, they don't perform so well as the ones that are curved, continuous, and that have this kind of mid-range that is not so dense, but is not so poor at the same time. I think that's it. So these are my contacts, and I think that's it. I hope you enjoyed it.
Wow. Yeah, I could say that it's an amazing job, Andrea. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I just, you know, I can say in words, because I was studying for like 4 years about biomimicry, and I am trying to set up or to write it down a book about open source symbiotic economy, and do some research about material ecology. And that insights that you gave us is really amazing. So it proves that the thesis that I am working on is about that nature is the best engineer and the best mathematician and the best design possible.
That's really nice, Marco. Really good to know. I really want to check your book later. I think it's going to be very interesting. And I want to tell you something. This research that we are doing, it's open. So we are going to publish all the process and all the results. If you want to use, or anyone wants to use and work on that, it's going to be there.
Okay,
Andrea,
maybe we could continue by asking some questions if we have some time. Let's see how much time do we have. Yes, I see that we have a little time to do some questions. Antonio, you want to say something?
No, I just wanted to thank. We have less than 2 minutes away from 10 o'clock. So there is not a lot of time remaining for the scheduled time that we had. So it was really very interesting. I really loved both parts, the second part and the first one. It's very interesting to be in touch with you. I just took the note, Marco, of the symbiotic economy, which is a term that I have not heard yet. And I just Googled that, and there is something to be read over there. And we have each other's contacts. Andrea, I'll be in touch with you for what I've said. And I thank you very much for the presentation. I'm very glad that I was here. And thank you for the bridging, Marco, that you were doing in the beginning.
I'm really glad to hear that. And I really hope it went well. I was a little bit afraid if it was going to be useful, but I really hope it is. And I want to thank you a lot to come here and for your contact. I think it's going to be amazing. I really hope you can do this Fab Lab and achieve everything you want. I think it's really important. And Marco, thank you so much for the invitation. It was a pleasure. Always, it's a pleasure to know new people and to exchange ideas. And Antonio, one time I want to hear a lecture from you as well, what you did, and I was really interested. So let's exchange that and see what is going to be your path, what was your path, and how we can.
We will talk, definitely. I just sent you a text message, so we'll be in touch.
I can see that we could do what we are planning in the Green Fab without your help, Andrea. So we need to talk a lot about the big project, and considering also the news from Labras and all the places and the places that I told you. Yeah, we have an experience like 4 years ago with a project of the Fab Lab. It is the sum of the Fab Labs in Latin America, and we were trying to create a project in the Amazonia Basin. It is called the project of floating Fab Lab. Okay, so it's a ship that will go through the rivers of Amazonia, looking for getting insights and delivering goods and tech and services for the people over there in a way that, you know, it is sustainable, that take in consideration that all those people needs a lot of respect, and it is needed to protect the environment over there. So we achieve a design, and I will share it with you. It is like a caracola, and it is designed to become a R&D research facility in a place in Santa Rosa de Yacuma in Beni, Bolivia. And of course, it is just the shell, okay? It is the a render of the exterior of the caracola, but it is what is needed to complete is to design the interiors, which is a facility and all that stuff. So just your lecture give me a lot of insights to continue this abandoned work that we have over there. And yeah, I want to thank you a lot. It is an outstanding lecture, and thank you, Antonio, for being with us. And we will continue in contact with this amazing approach on biomimicry and design.
And Marco, can we have your contact, because there is not your contact in the
yes,
the chat.
Of course, of course. I will provide my number from the email.
Okay.
One question, last question, Andrea, if you are generous enough. What about to design shells for you know, a housing that prevents from the current situation where we have a lot of heat or we have a lot of cold, and then these facades could allow us to get enough insulation and to preserve the inner temperature inside the housing, and how it could be made using some biomimicry patterns.
Okay, I don't know if you know that, but there is one, let me put here, one website that is amazing that I use with the students to work, that is called Ask Nature. It's from the Biomimicry Institute. So here you enter, it's amazing actually. It's the one that I use the most. So if you come here, it says, it gives a lot of tips, like how does nature process information, how does nature do that. And if you come here, for instance, you have a lot of examples. Let me just minimize here so you can see here. Okay, and then you can search, for instance, maintain temperature. Okay, I'm going to search here, maintain temperature. So it gives you all the animals maintain. All the animals and the vegetables, actually, that has these strategies. So for instance, I'm going to enter in this one. You have this ant from the desert, right? So she has the body that is, it's called the silver Saharan ant. It has the body with a color and a type of, so of this we examine into with a nanostructure photograph. So for instance, here her hair is triangulated like that. So the sun goes and it has a kind of stripe pattern and color that, and it's put in not perpendicular, but parallel to the body. So this helps the ant to maintain the temperature. This cools down. So if you go to the site, there are a lot of strategies, survival strategies and reproduction strategies of the animals that are really interesting. And then you can see here what they do, you know, how they maintain that, and you can translate that to a project. So if you construct, for instance, a shell that has a little bit of hair, just like that, and then you enter in this nano kind of study, you can do that for sure. There are 1,000 animals that has different strategies to maintain temperature that you can mimicry that. And you can have for instance, another one is the seashell, right? That has a lot of holes. So it has water inside in these holes, so it can last a long time in the sun. So you can mimicry and pass that to an architecture project or design project, and you have this increasing. You can have an increase in the performance of your projects and try to work with different materials and different strategies just by doing that. It's really interesting, really, really nice.
This is phenomenal, fantastic, really. Thank you for this.
Yeah, it is. Welcome. It's really interesting. If you go to the Biomimicry Institute in the United States, is the best place that you can have information about biomimicry from Janine Benhos. She started,
really?
Yeah, and it's fantastic. You can have a lot of information.
Biomimicry Institute.
Yes.
Wow. It's even more, is it even better than the Ask Nature one?
It's different because here you can see what they do. You have workshops, The Ask Nature is just to research strategies. So you understand what these animals or vegetables do and how they survive, how is their reproduction, and you try to mimicry that in a project, pass to that to translate to a project. And this one, you have a lot of websites, you have news, events, yeah.
Wow, this is fantastic, really.
It's really nice. It's all open, so you can, this is the best part, right? Because you have information here, research, and you have the, for instance, the piece of the text, and then you have here all the references. So if it's a journal, if it's a paper, if it's a book, where this is taken from. So it's really scientific kind of research.
Fantastic, really.
I think that's it, Marco. So in our,
Yes.
for instance, in Belas Artes, in the course I gave of biomimicry, we created a lot of projects related to that. So how to study animals and how to increase the performance of the projects related to those animals. We did just that. It was really interesting, a really interesting course.
Yes, it is a pleasure to have you both, and I want to remind you that tomorrow, Thursday, we're going to have again Andrea as moderator on experts panels, Make Things Make Sense, Make Shifts, with the participation of Vinay Gupta, Joshua Pierce and Marcin Jakubowski. So please be tuned, and we are waiting for you on that event.
At what time is it?
Let me find the ads. I think it is a different scheduled time today. Wait a little bit, please.
Okay, if I will definitely be there if I can make it, because I had a very empty agenda for Thursday. So it's the day that I placed a lot of things in my life to be done during this week. But I'll check it. If I can, I'll check that, because it can be very interesting too. We'll see.
I think it's
Okay.
5 p.m. GMT -4, right, Marco?
Yes, exactly.
It's 5 p.m. GMT -04.
So it's at 2 o'clock.
I will send you the
Well, I'll find it. I'll look for it. I'll look for that. Very good. Well,
okay, thank you both, and have a nice day.
thank you very much.
Lecture, Andrea. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you soon.